The night Jacob taped the room for rent sign to the kitchen door, his hands were trembling so badly the tape kept folding over itself. The refrigerator behind him hummed louder than usual, as if even it knew the electricity bill was 2 weeks overdue. His 8-year-old son, Noah, was asleep on the couch with a math workbook open on his chest, and the weight of that small, peaceful face felt heavier than any debt collector's threat. If you were sitting at that same table, staring at the same unpaid notices, what would you have done? Would pride matter more than survival, or would you swallow it for your child? Jacob had once owned a small construction company in Ohio. After the housing market dipped and a lawsuit drained what little savings he had left, he lost not only his business but his marriage. His ex-wife moved to Arizona, chasing sunshine and a new beginning, leaving Jacob with shared custody that slowly became full custody when she stopped calling. He never spoke ill of her to Noah. He simply said that sometimes adults get lost too. Renting out the spare bedroom felt like admitting failure. It was the room that once held cribs and toy chests, then boxes of forgotten baby clothes. Now it would hold a stranger. He posted the listing online with a simple description: quiet home, close to campus, single dad, must be respectful. He priced it lower than he should have because he needed someone fast. 2 days later, Ava showed up with a single suitcase and a backpack slung over her shoulder. She looked younger than her 20 years, with tired eyes that didn't match her neat clothes. She wasn't flashy. No designer logos, no attitude. Just a polite smile and a stack of paperwork. She said she was transferring to a local college for business studies and needed a place for at least a year. She paid the first 3 months in cash. That should have been the first clue. But Jacob didn't question miracles. He needed one. From the beginning, Ava blended into their small, strained world like she had always belonged there. She helped Noah with homework at the kitchen table while Jacob worked late shifts at a warehouse loading trucks. She washed her own dishes, kept her door closed, and left sticky notes reminding Noah to bring his lunch. Sometimes Jacob would catch her staring at the old family photos on the wall, her expression unreadable. If you had someone like that under your roof, would you trust it? Or would you wait for the other shoe to drop? Winter arrived harsh and uninvited. The heating system failed in December, and the repair estimate was more than Jacob made in a month. He sat at the table with his head in his hands while Noah built a blanket fort in the living room to make it fun. Ava watched quietly. The next morning, she handed Jacob an envelope, saying she had received an academic scholarship refund and wanted to cover the repair as an advance on future rent. He refused at first. Pride again. But the image of Noah's red, chapped hands broke him. He accepted. The house warmed again, but something inside Jacob shifted. Gratitude mixed with unease. Who was this college girl with scholarship refunds large enough to fix furnaces? Ava never flaunted anything. She walked to campus instead of driving. She worked part-time at a coffee shop even though she didn't seem to need the money. She spent evenings studying, sometimes crying softly in her room when she thought no one could hear. Jacob heard. He just never asked. One evening, a black SUV parked across the street. It didn't belong in their modest neighborhood of peeling paint and uneven sidewalks. A man in a tailored coat stepped out and stood on the sidewalk, staring at the house. Ava froze when she saw him through the window. The truth spilled out slowly that night like water through cracked concrete. Ava was the daughter of a tech billionaire from New York. Her father owned one of the fastest-growing cybersecurity firms in the country. She had grown up in penthouses and private schools, shielded from ordinary life. After her mother passed away, her father buried himself in work. Their house became quieter, colder. Every conversation felt like a board meeting. So she left. Not dramatically, not rebelliously. She just wanted to know who she was without bodyguards and headlines. The black SUV belonged to her father's security team. He had finally tracked her down. Jacob listened without judgment. He didn't see a billionaire's daughter sitting at his table. He saw a young woman who had lost her mother and felt invisible in a mansion. What would you have done in his place? Would you have been angry for being kept in the dark? Or would you have understood the desperate need to escape expectations? Ava expected him to ask her to leave. Instead, he told her that under his roof, she was just Ava. No headlines. No fortune. Just a college student who liked blueberry pancakes and helped his son with fractions. Her father requested a meeting. He arrived in an expensive coat that probably cost more than Jacob's monthly income. The tension in the room was thick enough to choke on. The man thanked Jacob stiffly for accommodating his daughter and offered to buy the house outright as a gesture of appreciation. Jacob's jaw tightened. For a moment, the number dangled in front of him like salvation. Debts erased. College funds secured. A fresh start. But then he looked at Noah, who was laughing with Ava over a spilled cup of cocoa. Money had never tucked his son into bed or stayed up helping with spelling tests. It had never warmed a broken home. Jacob declined the offer. He said something simple that silenced the billionaire. He said that Ava didn't need another transaction in her life. She needed space to breathe. For the first time, the powerful man looked unsure. Weeks passed. The SUV stopped appearing. Ava continued her classes, but something had softened between her and her father. They began meeting in public parks instead of boardrooms. Sometimes Noah joined them, dragging his soccer ball along. Slowly, carefully, bridges rebuilt themselves. Then came the accident. Jacob was injured at the warehouse when a stack of crates collapsed. A fractured leg. Months off work. No savings to cushion the fall. The old fear returned, sharp and suffocating. Hospital bills piled up faster than apologies. This time, Ava didn't offer an envelope. She called her father. Not to demand money. Not to rescue them like a princess waving a credit card. She asked him to invest in Jacob. Within weeks, the billionaire's company partnered with Jacob to launch a small property maintenance division under their corporate umbrella. It wasn't charity. It was a contract, built on trust and a detailed business plan Ava had helped write. Jacob worked from home during recovery, managing crews and rebuilding his confidence piece by piece. The house changed again, but not because of money. It changed because hope had returned. Noah bragged at school that his dad was starting a company with Ava. Ava laughed more. Jacob stood taller. The day Ava graduated, she wore a simple blue dress and cried when Jacob hugged her. In the crowd, her father stood beside him, not as a billionaire above a struggling dad, but as a parent who had almost lost his child to emotional distance. If this story has made you pause, please comment and share what you would have done if you were Jacob or Ava. Ava eventually moved back to New York, not into the penthouse, but into a small apartment she paid for herself. She joined her father's company, but on her own terms. Jacob's business grew steadily, never extravagant, but stable and honest. Every Christmas, a black SUV still pulls up outside his house, but now it carries laughter, homemade pies, and a young woman who once ran from her fortune to find herself in a small Ohio kitchen. Jacob once rented out a room to survive. He never imagined he was opening his home to a second chance for all of them. And if this story truly touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe, but only if it reminded you that sometimes the greatest wealth isn't money, it's the courage to choose kindness when you need it most.